Welcome to another issue of IMB in our technique section. We're going to revisit corners this time. We looked in earlier editions at the simple cornering technique to just get you the fundamentals right for cornering. Now we're going to step things up and look at how you can really start to carve your corners, rip round corners, find grip when others are slipping, and really rail those trails. If you're cooking up a storm in your corners, there's 5 ingredients you really need to concentrate on. And we're going to look at the recipe for success and put them all together, layer them up and see what we can do and see how much faster we can get and how much more control we can find, whether it's dry, wet, rooted, cambered, bermed, or whatever sort of corner you find.
So as always, everyone likes to have some good kit on their bike, but it's very easy to blame your tyres if you're not finding the grip through the corners. So what we're going to look at is how you can get it. It's very easy to blame your gear, but it's not always that's to blame.
So let's put technique before tyre choice and terrain, and let's make sure it's not the rider that's to blame. Even though often riders unfairly blame their kit for their failures and their shortcomings, obviously you and your equipment are important elements when it comes to any technique and getting it right and having great success. So first thing, let's have a little look at setting up for success when it comes to corners and finding that grip and making sure we get through the corners safely with speed.
So tyre choice and tyre pressure, getting that set up right. This is the first contact with the ground. Making sure that that contact point is good makes a really big difference. If your tyres are too hard, your tyres will chatter across the ground and might break traction. If they're too soft, you're going to wallow around and not get the grip. So just getting that tyre pressure correct is really the first thing to have a look at, and just giving them a squeeze, making sure they feel a little bit more like an orange than an apple is a good place to start, and then just playing around with that tyre pressure. Don't go too low too quickly, just a little just gives you an idea of where you can set the pressure and you can move from there. The next thing to look at is just really getting your saddle height right. It's very easy if you've been riding the trail to run your saddle a little bit higher. What you want to do is just drop it down. If you've got a dropper post, it's ideal. Just drop it down out of the way so you can really work the bike as you go into those corners. If you haven't got a dropper post and you're riding a trail with a lot of corners in, just lower your saddle a little bit. It will give you that space you need to make the bike work perfectly underneath you.
So we're going to look at the ingredients for this recipe for success in isolation, and then we're going to mix them all up together and see what comes out. Hopefully a nice fluid cornering technique that applies to all levels of terrain, and we're going to show you a technique that not only works really well when it's muddy and slippery, when it's tight and twisty, if it's rooty, sandy, it doesn't matter. What we're going to look at is best practice. A lot of people will say, but I can get round corners without doing this and that and the other when weather conditions are good and trail conditions are good. What we're going to look at is a catch-all. If you can get this right and achieve it and do this technique and apply this technique, you never have to change what you're doing on the trail. Every corner, you've got the same process to go through. You might emphasize one element a little bit or a little bit more or less, depending on the severity of the corner and the gradient, etc. But what we're going to look at is making sure that best practice prevails and you don't fail.